morning. This day I thought I'd give you a little bit of a talk on planting of shrubs and plants in pots or cans, okay, or even boxes, because they have planting. You may not be into it, but eventually if you're going to become a professional, you're going to get into 2-foot, 3-foot, 4-foot boxes. So you have to learn some basics. And when I went to college, they used to say, you know, if a 1 gallon can would be about like this size right here. This is 1 gallon can. And you would make a 5 gallon hole. Well, in theory, it may have sounded good, but what you want is a wide hole. And nowadays, we don't go that deep. It's a gallon. You don't go way down here, because then all this is fluff and everything. The plant will sink down as years go by and the soil, compacts. So a lot of times some of the new thinking is don't go too far, but make it wider. Okay. So my first thing to tell you is you have to know what's there. Dig a hole, like we have a hole here, and find out what's there. If it's solid rock, you're going to have to do something a little bit different. And a lot of times you'll get a job. I had some in St. Francis in Pacific Heights. You would go down that far, that's enough for a gallon can, barely. But we were put in a 2-foot box. Had to get a jackhammer. There's a spec that the architect gave us, and so we had to dig down. Well, we had to make that hole a lot bigger, and I even drilled holes sideways like this into the rock, and then I put a pipe in there, and I put perlite, and then put your hand like this and pull the pipe out. So this hole was full of perlite. So the idea with all the roots would go in there, it would have, otherwise it's growing in a pot. You know, if it's all rock, you're growing in a pot. So you have to know your soil. Here, if you look, it's all soil there. You could probably grow almost anything right here. It's friable, and you could do something with it. You don't have to do a lot. So anyway, one of the brochures that came out from UC Extension said, dig a hole, put the plant in it, and throw the soil back in. It has to grow. And I said, no, that's not true, because we work in gardens. If you're going to work wherever you're going to work, you got to know what's there, and then adapt your planting to that. Now, the number one thing whenever you're planting is drainage. I guess swamp cypress and maybe a weeping willow, about the only ones that could grow in water practically, So everything else needs drainage. So you dig this hole. I used to work right up here on Mount Davidson, and I thought, I'm going to plant this stuff, and it looked awful hard to me. So I thought, well, it's awful dry. I better wet it first. Dig a hole and put some water in it. It didn't go down. I said, oh, it'll take time. I dig 2 more holes, put water in those. I come back, this one's still got water in it. Well, needless to say, you're not going to grow anything in there. When it rains, when the people water the garden, that'll fill up with water and the plant dies because it's drowning. Conversely, in Forest Hill, I used to dig a hole like that. It was sand. Did the same thing. Put water in. It didn't go nowhere. Oh, but I thought, it's sand, it's okay. I mixed it up with the water, made mud and everything, put the plant in. After about 6-8 months, that plant died. I said, something wrong here, So little by little, I did more reading, and then things I remembered from college, I said, this soil's hydrophobic. It's not taking water. Before you plant, you got to make sure the water goes down. Well, at that time, we had material called water wet, water in. It was a surfactant. A lot of time now, I think, Thomas, you could use detergent,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a small amount of detergent. So we used to have this water wet, and it was in a gallon. I dig all my holes, fill them full of water, and they'd all have water in it. I go, click, click. Just put about 5 capfuls in each one. By the time I got down the end, it came back, the water was gone. I knew I was in plant, everything went good. So you have to test that, because don't think just because it's rocky, it won't go down. Maybe it's not solid rock and the water will go through it. And just like I said with the sand, if it's hydrophobic, you're going to have to overcome that. Okay? So once you have that, and then like I say, make your hole big enough and don't make it too deep. A lot of time I'll go down maybe about this much below the can size. Mix that up and stomp it real good, real tight, as much as you can. And then scratch it up a little bit so the roots will go. And then we're going to show you, you know, how to do the root ball. And don't pick them up like I just did. Always pick them up by the can, okay? And then you can hit them and get them out, okay? Now this one, you can see the roots coming out the bottom, you know, and so you want to, first of all, we got a bunch of oxalis and all this, so you could take all this off, and don't feel bad about going down deeper. Try not to break the roots of the ball too much, but you want to get all, here you could take it, because a lot of this oxalis could be, and burr clover is down deep. So if you don't, you're just transplanting this to your garden. Now this is City College mix and soil. When you buy stuff, it's all sterilized. So usually when you buy plants, they don't have all these weeds growing out of the top. But this is what we do here, okay? You clear that, and then, so you know, also when you buy plants, a lot of times, and City College doesn't do that, which is a good thing. We had some azaleas that we used to buy and plant, and they kept dying. We were always in a hurry. We break up the roots, like I'm going to try and show you here. Man, this is really tight. I might have to get a knife out, or you break them up. So anyway, with one of my employees, he pulled one out and he started cleaning the top. They had mulch this high up in the plant. So eventually it became like soil, you know, and you don't want to put all that around the crown here. You want to have just the roots down in here. And so anyway, when this was done, what we found, we cleaned all that mulch off when we planted, break up the roots, so we didn't lose any more azaleas. So a lot of these growers, they are, these plants are planted by a machine, and the machine was putting way more of this mulch over the top. Yeah, so you want to break up these roots. First, you want to work up the bottom, and then you could work your way up like this, okay?
So the bottom, the sides, and the shoulder, the top.
And you don't cut these off unless you had a big tap root, but it can't hurt it. And some of this you just break off and get rid of it. And these are the roots of the plant. Now, in our business, you don't want to buy a plant like this. Too much work. Look at what I'm going through to plant it. We like to get them when they're ready to fall apart almost. You just stick them in the ground, and they go to town. Okay?
So this one was probably sitting in the pot for too long, just sitting there hanging out.
They're pot bound.
Root bound.
Here, look at the root on this guy.
Big, thick, round thing going in circles, Gus?
Yeah. Circling root, see it there? This one here, you could cut that off.
Okay. Because you don't want it strangling itself.
Yeah.
Looks better.
That's about what I would do. And then this here, cut that one off. And then the other fibrous root you leave alone. This one here, if you really wanted to, down in here. Because you don't have much of a top on here.
You're saying if you had a bigger top, you'd save more of the root.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you'd have to. Or do a little bit of pruning up there, but this one doesn't have any. So this is about how I would do this guy. Okay? Then, like I say, I would water that. Thomas will put that in. And then keep it up high enough. And so if you were doing this, you would probably, my way is still to, this soil here, I would probably just put it in the way it is. You know, if the soil was not nice, then I would put in some organic matter and so on, and backfill with that.
Amend it a little bit.
Amend it, yeah.
Mm.
This here looks pretty good to me. If anything, a little bit of redwood maybe will help to hold moisture, and that's it, okay? And then a lot of time I fill it part way up with soil, and then I water it in, and then I finish the backfill and then water it again, okay? And if you're on a slope or something, I put a basin around to hold the water from running away, so it stays right there, okay? I think that's it for today. I hope it helps you along in your planting, because the proof's in the pudding. So, you know, watch what happens in your type of planting, and if it does well, you duplicate it. If it doesn't, back to the drawing board. Okay? Bye-bye.